All right, everyone. Thanks for coming. First of all, this is definitely a cutting edge topic. I don't know if I've seen so many of you so far in other presentations, so hopefully some of the information is new. It's about quantum technology and frequency medicine and about real study results in regards to helping the DNA, the blood, ATP production, and other things. So our technology that we invented about 2.5 years ago, after a longer process, has been tested and studied in multiple randomized, placebo-controlled, double-blind, and single-blind studies across the globe by various different institutes and labs. Very important. It's by the Base Institute in Austria, which is the largest biofeedback and biosystem analysis institute in Europe. And then by the EGIF Institute, it's the largest EMF testing and research institute in Europe that's independent. The Emoto Institute in Japan, which some of you may know. Masaru Emoto is the pioneer in regards to studying water, the energy of water, and he invented a method on how you can freeze water and then show the crystals in the water. And we'll get into that. Live blood analysis by various different institutes and doctors' practices, biowell testing, clinical study with autistic kids in India, an ATP production study, and the list actually goes on, but this is the most important. So the Base Institute tested almost anything you can test in regards to EMF, and we'll get into one of those specific use cases that was just repeated with the latest model of an electric car, which is the most powerful current electric car in Europe. But they also tested, in general, the positive impact on the human body and the different organs, significant improvement of the blood, improvement of water and food, and many other things. So just real quick, so the technology we're talking about is a technology that has a very concentrated quantum energy field available. Quantum energy is the energy behind the matter, and it's also the energy we have in each of our cells. So we're literally quantum energy fields. If you think about it, we're constantly interacting with other quantum fields. We think of ourselves as solid, but that's just a thought, because we're not really, we're also solid, but behind that is energy. We kind of know it's over 90% water, but then even water is mainly space, right? But it's not that there's nothing behind the matter, it's really the energy. So that energy we were able to concentrate and harness. So that's actually the breakthrough. And then we combine it with certain frequencies in some cases. So the electric car study is one that was actually already done about 2 years ago. And then people asked, well, does it still work for these very powerful new batteries? And so it's just repeated about a month ago with the electric Porsche in Europe. And they tested the people before, and then, to get a baseline reading. And then they tested the people when they were driving in the electric car, and they did more tests. They tested how is it after 45 minutes of driving, how is it if you drive and then you turn on a phone and someone else is sitting in the car as well, also turning on the phone, and they're playing around, they're talking. And then how is it like if you actually charge the battery? All of these things are actually detrimental for the human health. It's unfortunate to say, but it's actually a very easy test you can do with an EMF meter. You just go to a regular gas-operated car and you check, when it's running, what does the meter say, and then you do that with an electric car. And then you actually keep that meter on or turn it on again after you've been driving for half an hour, and then you'll see these levels, right? So that's just a base test to see what the electric car actually does. So the good news is that our technology was shown to neutralize all of these detrimental effects and even more in all of the cases that were tested. So not only just driving a little bit in the car, but driving in a, for 45 minutes, people are on the phone, etc. And even the battery charging. We still don't recommend to be in the car actually when you charge an electric car, because it's really a big blast of energy that's coming. And so here's just a snapshot. The before test, you see that people already had several issues, right? They were not in perfect health. So all green is actually what you want to see. That's perfect or ideal balance of the human health in all of the organs. And this is the average here across all the different organs. So you see with the EMF on in the electric car, how it all turns basically blue. That's an unhealthy state. And here's just a snapshot on how granular they went, just so that you see they actually measured the health state of the lungs, the skin, the large intestines, and all the other organs, including the bladder, etc. We can go through that because we don't have that much time today to go into any details. If you want any more details, we have a booth here, pretty much the first booth if you go into this big hall, and we'll provide all the details. We also have all of this on the website. There's hundreds of pages you can go through, of course, but I wanted to cover a lot of ground, so I'm not going into too much depth here. ATP production is something that we can't live without. We can live without food for some time. We can live without water for a little less time than with food. And after a couple minutes, we're dead if there's no ATP production. So it's the currency of the body. It's the cells produce the energy. So what do we need if we want to heal, or if there's performance needed for, I don't know, an exam where it's mental performance, or there's a world championship in wrestling, then I need physical performance. For all of that, I need ATP production. And that's what all these top athletes are trying to do, to get the last bit out of ATP that they can. So we had a university lab in the US, do cell testing with actual human cells. It was a randomized double-blind study with statistical significance. They showed that our technology was able to increase ATP production by 20 to 25%. And that already started after 2 minutes. So already after 2 minutes of turning on the technology, you saw this up-leveling. And the control group was just regular, right? It really didn't show anything. And that's massive. So anyone that knows about ATP production will tell you, well, you can maybe do these 10 things all at the same time, and then you can get possibly to 10 to 20%. Someone like Dave Asprey, for example, hasn't seen anything like 25% ever. So he was quite impressed with this. And goes on here. This is just the EGIF Institute that did a lot of EMF testing. So all of these products, they harmonize EMF. So it's very important. Some of the products, like the EMF blocking clothing, they block EMF. So literally there's no EMF that can go through other than maybe 0.01%. But all the other products, like the blocks, they harmonize the EMF. So you can still use your cell phone, your Wi-Fi, and all of that, but it harmonizes the effect so that your body is still in optimal health. And things that were previously detrimental are not detrimental anymore. So this was just a heart rate variability study. We don't need to go into details. That was very positive in every case. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, the dark field microscopy. So it's also called live blood analysis, where you look at the blood in real time, and you can look at the blood cells, the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and you can see what happens if you introduce a change to the body. So it's actually the best tool and the only tool to look at your own blood. And here's kind of what that looks like. On the left-hand side, you would see the red blood cells. They're quite clotted. And it's called the so-called money rolls. And then after in this case, just 5 minutes of using the quantum block, suddenly there's oxygenated blood, the blood cells are separated from each other. So it's a very healthy look. So that's how we got started. It's hard to see. Okay, well, there's not much I think I can do about that. Yeah, I have also other pictures here. You know, we got started with these before and after pictures. I don't know if you can see that. That's actually a 68-year-old cancer patient here with very, very bad blood on the left-hand side. And then he used our T-shirt and had a different outcome on the right. So, but then before and after testing, all of these tests were positive in the beginning. But then we were told, okay, well, that's not enough because that's just some before and after testing. And, you know, you could just get lucky with this, right? And we said, okay, so what do we need to do? And, oh yeah, you need to do a double-blinded study that's sham-controlled and, or a single-blinded study, sham-controlled and randomized. So that's what we did then next. And Dr. Beverly Rubik is probably the best in the US to do these studies. A lot of people know her. Hopefully you can see this a little bit better. So she did these randomized, sham-controlled, double-blind, single-blind studies, and in 100% of the cases, these results came out that the baseline blood was tested. You know, that's what you see on the left-hand side. Then Wi-Fi was introduced as the next factor, right? And rapidly, you see how these blood cells move towards clotting. And what you see here is actually that's stage 2 of blood clotting. And that is within minutes. We're talking 10 minutes. That's what Wi-Fi can do to your blood. Yeah, and you may have seen similar pictures with, you know, vaccinated blood, for example. You know, there's other things that can do that to the blood, not just Wi-Fi. And then they introduced the quantum block. And again, so this was sham controlled. So that means that the test persons, they got a device, but they didn't know what that even was, and was it even a real device or not. So in this case here, with the real quantum block, after 10 minutes, that's how it looked like. And the quantum block is actually the weakest device that we have. And I want to emphasize that this is somewhat unusual, frankly, that you have something that works in 100% of the cases. Usually you see 20, 30% efficacy, but this really happened in 100% of the cases, and we still have to find a single test person where it doesn't look like that, where the blood doesn't significantly improve. You know, this is just a little breakdown of what Dr. Rubik looks at. Rouleau formations, fibrin, and then she looks at white blood cell activity. So most of you here probably know that white blood cell activity and motility is important for the immune system, and that these tend to get paralyzed by Wi-Fi. You know, and don't want to scare anyone, but that's really what was shown in all of these studies. And then as you introduce this technology, suddenly they're active again, right? They're moving as normal, actually as better than before. And it all happens on the energetic. So it really, you can call this a high consciousness field. And that sounds very woo. That's also why I'm trying to focus on really physical evidence here and scientific evidence. But nevertheless, it starts on the below subatomic level. And because it tends to bring things into balance and into optimal shape, then the result is that also the blood reorganizes and that the body starts to move into this optimal state. It's the body doing it, but the energy helps the body to do that. That's how it works. This was just, you know, the water structure study. You know, honestly, when I got these study results back, I was very grateful and humbled, but I didn't really know what to say to all these crystals. Like, if you look at this here, I couldn't even explain to you all that. Maybe some of you have done more research on crystals and could tell me more, but in the world of the Emoto Institute, that was significant. And they were so impressed that they said, well, this block was able to improve water faster than any other method we've ever seen before. And then they asked me for a phone call, and we set that up, and I thought they wanted to explain this study more, but they actually asked, can we import your products and distribute them in Japan? Which I did not expect, because the Moda Institute does not sell anything. They're an institute, a lab, and they've never bought products from overseas to resell them. So now, since about 11 months, they're reselling our products, which tells me much more than all these crystals here on the picture. But for everyone visual, at least this is all available. You can look it up on the website. And out of one beautiful crystal in the control water, the weakest block we have, the quantum block, made 5 beautiful crystals in just 3 minutes. So in their world, that is quite significant, apparently. This was a clinical study that was done with autistic children in India. 42 autistic children were basically treated with the technology for 3 months. And then for another 3 months, they wore a specific capsule that was similar to the so-called HEAL capsule that we have regularly available, but it was charged with specific frequencies that are good for autistic kids. And it showed significant improvement here already in the midterms results, where 70% of the kids had huge improvements across all the levels that were measured, whether that was language and speaking skills, attention span, focus. And if you think about what the technology does, it kind of makes sense, because autistic kids and people in general, they live in like an alternate reality, and they have big trouble being in the here and now. So this high vibration, this high consciousness field pulls them into the here and now. And that is actually the only reason why all these other effects are visible. Because if you're suddenly here, you can be more focused. You can probably also speak easier, right? And so all these things were measured, and then they have this something called ATEC scores, ATEC. And I think the average was in the high 90s. And this functional medicine clinic was able to bring it down 10 points to about, I don't know, it was like in the high 80s with their own methodology. And they've been doing that for many years. They did a dietary program, a nutritional program, but they were never able to take it any further than that. So now with quantum healing on top of that, after the first 3 months of that, it was reduced another 10%. And then with a capsule, and not 10 percentage points, not 10%. It's very important. 10 points, and then another 10 points. So, and that was on average. So there were actually some kids that were not in the spectrum anymore, which is quite significant. But on average, they were still, on the spectrum, but it was way less than before. And so that was really amazing. And the study is about to be published. We've actually been waiting for a year now for it to get published, but it takes a long time for the peer-reviewed process. Yeah, we have a lot of ongoing research. There's a wound healing study. I guess we talked about the preliminary results that human cells showed a 2x healing process when charged with our technology. Means that there's damaged cells in a control group and damaged cells in a group that is quantum charged. And the healing was twice as fast in all of the cells that were charged. But that's preliminary data, so we want to have more data. Food allergies, I think I need to stop here in 30 seconds, but there's a lot of research with food allergies going on, and everything currently points towards a 65 to 100% reduction in allergy response if you charge specific foods you're allergic to in the so-called blocks. So I want to maybe finish with this here, that there's a lot of top, actually world champions that are using our technology to get the last juice out of their body and their energetic system for high performance. There's a Blaine McConnell, Mark Samuels, and several others. And yeah, for now I stop. I would have loved to take some questions, but they say stop, so we can't do that. So if you have questions, then you find us, at the Lila Quantum Tech booth, and there's the team there. I'll be there. My wife will be there, and we're looking forward to speaking with you. Thank you.